Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Thought Leaders. I'm your host Chris Shang, and today we have David and Jan, who is the co-founders of FaceUp. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Chris, for inviting us.
Of course. Love to hear what FaceUp is, what you guys do. Let us know the type of companies you guys work with.
Yeah, so FaceUp is an all-in-one platform for building a speak-up culture. It means that over 1,000 companies in 60 countries are using us as a tool where their employees can send anonymous reports or surveys and talk about like any stuff which is not easily to talk about face-to-face. It means that we are helping companies to fight against sexual harassment, bullying, corruption, and lots of other problems.
Got it. Very cool. Before we dive into the core of your product and why you guys started it, tell us a little bit about how you guys met as co-founders. What were you guys doing beforehand? And what was that journey like in the very beginning?
Yeah, so we met many years ago at high school. So we were classmates, and we started several projects together. We started with mobile apps, then with another like e-shops and websites, and then we found FaceUp.
Got it. So you guys have known each other for how many years now?
I think currently it's 10 or 11, something
Yeah,
like that. And
11?
we are doing business since day one.
yeah. We have been in business since 13 and since 12,
Got
so
it.
it's a long time.
How did you guys, I mean, let's go back a little bit because I think that's such a unique story, right? So how did you guys how did you guys meet and then find this affinity towards tech at such a young age? And what was that like maybe like individually? Like I don't know if you guys had kind of each gone down your own path around like learning development or engineering or playing around with computers in the very beginning and then finding that, or was that like a commonality going into the relationship together, or was that something that you guys developed individually and then saw that each other had that same affinity?
I think that we started individually, but pretty soon we started our like business partnership. So my beginnings was when I was 12 because I was whole childhood I was a bit different kid. I had different hobbies and different expectations from my life, and I was still trying to do something what wasn't common in my class. And when I was 12, Facebook did their IPO, and I heard it in the radio, and I was just asking my dad, what does it mean? What are shares? What is IPO? What is the market? And I was really interested in it. And when I walked to my classmates and I told them that during weekend I was studying stock market, they had no idea what I'm talking about. So I felt like this is an interesting topic, which I can dive in. And yeah, so I used first $10 or something like that, which I had from my parents, and I started investing in stock market. And 1 year from that, we met with David, and we were talking about business technologies. We find out that we have pretty similar hobbies, and we decided that we don't want to be the ones who are just trying to figure out what future will be, but we want to be the ones who will be creating the future. So I stopped investing in other companies, and we decided to start our first own businesses.
Yeah, and I was just bored during high school, so I want to realize my ideas. So that's how all the apps went live, and we developed several projects. Unfortunately, none of us can code, but we studied coding, so we know a lot of good programmers better than us. So thanks to them, thanks to our third co-founder Pavel, we could develop things such as FaceUp.
Got it. So both of you guys aren't technical founders, is that correct?
No,
With technical background, but we can't code, so
Got it.
it's
Fair
like
enough.
yeah, we were studying, but I didn't finish high school. I decided to focus into business. So yeah, we know that we are better in sales, marketing, or business operations, but we are not the programmers.
Fair enough. Um, and that's such a unique instance to happen. I think like how did you guys have the confidence to go and start doing your own things? Like, I mean, I feel like, I mean, maybe this is generational, but like, was there, I don't know. I mean, maybe your peers didn't even realize this, but like when did the epiphany click in or the awareness click in that you could become a part of the future and like building for the future and not just being a part of it? Like, when did that actually connect the dots for you, right? Because I think that that's such a young age to kind of like realize those things versus I would imagine that most of your peers are just kind of like consuming things, let alone like thinking about how they can be a part of the other side of that coin, which is like creating and building.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we realized it that time. I think it was mostly about just creating what we love and making things real and live. So I think it was just about creating apps, creating our ideas, and then we found out that it can change the future.
Yeah, I think that it's important to understand that firstly we weren't thinking about our project as about business or startup. I think that with our first startup we didn't know the word startup. So we were just launching apps which we needed ourselves. Um, and this like first revenue was like, I don't know, $50 per month or something like that. So it actually wasn't business. But step by step projects started to be bigger and bigger.
Yeah, so we created the first app, then we got audience, so we found out what marketing is. With the audience, so we could put ads in the app, so that made money. So I think it was like step by step, and then we found out that, well, like that's business.
Yeah, which is pretty interesting because we weren't doing like any stuff like lean canvas or doing some propositions or we weren't like analyzing competitors, and we just weren't doing like any stuff which is recommended to do when you are starting business, because we just didn't know about it. We were like instinctively doing what we found important.
Very cool. I mean, to be honest, I think that, having interviewed like hundreds of founders, I don't think any of the most successful ones ever like, practiced anything that they ever learned from any classroom or from any book. I think that there's every journey is so unique in and of itself that you have to kind of just start, and a lot of times people can read all the materials, but then they just never start, right? And I think there's no better way to kind of to build a startup than just to start building a startup, right? And I think that's like how you guys started it without even knowing how you started it, and now you've gone through some iterative learnings, and then figure out that that is the core of like actually building a business. So, at which point did you guys start feeling like, okay, this is like a career path, this is a profession, this is something that we can build customers around, and we can monetize this to make a living? And maybe it's not like in that big contextual idea of, we want to build a legacy business like a Facebook or something like that, but more so like, hey, we could do this and we can make a living, we could pay for ourselves, we could, earn an income from doing this. When did that start happening?
Mm, like for me there were three important moments, I think. First was when our first app at over 100,000 downloads, um, which was something what we just couldn't believe, because we were doing the project with the vision that maybe two of us will be using the app and maybe one or two other classmates, and then there were 100,000 kids using our solution to study and prepare for exams. So it was like the moment when we find out that it looks like we have the skills to scale something and do it big. Second important moment was when I launched with our third co-founder of FaceUp, our first e-shop, and we were actually generating some money, because the app wasn't generating money or maybe revenue, like as I said, like $50 per month or something like that. But then when I was 15 or 16, the e-shop were doing still not much, but I could, pay dinner or something like that. But then the most important moment was when we were 17 and we closed our first investment round, and we saw that there's like angel investor with lots of experiences in business who believe in us so much that that he wanna invest money in our projects. So I think that the investment was the moment when I find out that that we are really doing some like true business and not just playing.
Yeah, and he's also a great advisor. So we know a lot of things thanks to him from the business perspective.
How did that? How did you guys meet that first investor, and then, what was the relation? What's that relationship like in terms of like, how did you start formalizing? Because at 17 years old, that's a risk that somebody is taking, but they must see something in that risk to feel confident that it's worth the bet. Um, how did you guys find him, and what was that going on through your mind and your lens as, from your perspective, having those meetings, and when did it start formalizing? I know you mentioned it was from that experience and then a few other ones, but with his belief, his confidence in you guys, um, was that kind of what all it took really as a catalyst for you guys to start believing in yourselves in terms of like building a viable business?
Yeah. So we met him thanks to a journalist who wrote an article about us,
Mm,
about first version of FaceUp, which is a nonprofit helping kids in schools to fight against bullying. And there was a journalist who wrote about us, and her ex-colleague was this angel investor, and she asked me if I wanna do intro. Of course, I wanted, because I knew this investor from media, and I was also on his keynote a few years ago. So I was really interested, and I wasn't thinking about the intro as about intro to potential investor, but I was thinking about it as about intro to somebody with more experiences who can advise us and maybe give us some interesting ideas. But then we were talking, and we find out that he's really interested not only in the project, but mainly in us. Because he told us that he sees lots of potential in our energy and drive, and he decided to invest. And it was funny because we didn't have any pitch deck or business plan or something like that. And his idea behind the investment was that he is paying us the school of entrepreneurship, and he was like pretty sure that the project will die, and we can't build nothing big from it. But he was pretty sure that after this project, maybe we can launch something bigger and bigger. And he wanted to be our partner who will help us with that, and then generate money maybe in the next investment.
mm.
But already the first one was success. I think that the result was better. Results were better than he expected.
Yeah, because when he invested, we didn't have any business model. It was all about a free plan. So then we developed a freemium, then paid plans for companies. And it started to grow, and we started getting companies from all around the world.
Interesting. Um, so when was let's talk a little bit more now about FaceUp, because you guys are also, we haven't talked about this, but you guys are based in Czechia,
In Prague.
Czech
in Prague.
Republic.
Okay, Czech Republic. Yeah, got it. Okay, cool. And so, being in, what is the tech scene like in Czech Republic?
Hmm. It's pretty small. Like
Okay.
everyone's know everyone. But the ecosystem is really supportive. So it's easy to connect with anyone, to get some new ideas and experiences from more successful founders. But still, in whole Czech Republic, we have currently 2 or 3 unicorns. So it's not much. In Western Europe, they have much better results. So I think that the startup ecosystem in Czech Republic, it's still at the beginnings.
Yeah.
but growing pretty fast. There is every year there are some new VC firms. So yeah, ecosystem is growing, but still we can't compare it with London or on San Francisco or other parts of Western world.
Yeah, interesting. I will say, like, I know that I've spoken to quite a few founders from like Estonia, which is also, like a smaller, small country, but has also a very, I think, like similar tech scene in the sense that it's very tight knit, but there's definitely quite a few that have grown out of there. Um, and done it quite successfully. We'd love to kind of just dive into, FaceUp, and you had mentioned that the first iteration was around schools and centered around, bullying around schools. At which point did, like, how many? I know the company's been through a few different iterations of that, but like it's about seven some years old, almost 8 years old, right? And how many years were you guys focused on the schools? And at which point did you start focusing on businesses and then switching that model to monetize from a to monetize and going from a nonprofit to a for-profit business?
Yeah, so we started with the company version in the year 2020 during COVID. So when COVID came, all the schools were closed all around the world. So we had no idea what to do. And we found out that speaking up is not just an issue in schools and for students, but we found out that there are several issues in companies as well. And it's important to build a speak up culture for companies. So that's why we switched the model or create another plans for companies as well.
Maybe important is to mention that it wasn't our idea. It was idea of potential clients. Because still we were meeting companies which were asking us if they can sign up for FaceUp, but it was not possible because it wasn't commercial project for companies. It was just for schools. So they were pretty sad about it. So we decided that okay, if there is so many companies which wanna sign up, we should build something for them. And the most important moment for me was when we were communicating with huge brand of private schools in South Africa, and we were trying to implement the school version of FaceUp to their schools, and they didn't sign up, but they asked us if they can use it for employees. So this was the moment where we find out that for some people the company version can be much more important than kid version.
Yeah, and it's funny because this is our first company client and they still use FaceUp for their employees in all the schools.
Interesting. So it was basically the market was telling you that you needed to address this and you needed to bring it to companies. Um, so can you tell me a little bit about, like, how do you go from schools to then multinational companies in terms like a go-to-market perspective? Like, how do you market, and then how do you sell into, basically companies from anywhere in the globe?
Yeah, we have like three main pillars of our go-to-market. The most important one is online marketing. Like typical inbound, we are generating lots of content. We have lots of paid advertisements on Google, Bing, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, or anywhere else around the world. So we are generating potential leads. They are going to our website and signing up for free trial or signing up for a live demo, downloading ebooks or other stuff, and then we have sales reps who are contacting these leads and trying to convert them to clients. So this is doing like 60 or 70% of our customer base, where the main market are the United States. Then we are pretty strong in UK, Canada, Australia, and as we said, like other 60 countries. Third, or the second pillar is build it on partnerships, where we have lots of resellers and integrations with like our typical resellers are compliance or HR consulting firms around the world. We are also doing integrations with other HR techs who then resell us as a feature to their customers. And then third pillar, which is doing something around 5 or 10% of revenue, is direct sales, where we are doing like typical cold calling, cold mailing, using LinkedIn outreach and other sales stuff.
Interesting. And when did how did you start formalizing all that go-to-market? Was that the same kind of three pillars that you were using when you're targeting schools, or has it evolved since then?
No, it was totally different. Like it was basically like launching new company.
Mm,
We created a product from zero. We also hired total like new team, because the school version was like mainly non-profit, and it was built by other students who were doing it like during school or after school. But for a commercial product for businesses, we needed people with more experiences and working full time on it. So like basically like everything was absolutely new, product different, market different, go to market was different, team was different. So yeah. For the school version, the thing which was working as pretty well was targeting not schools but students who wanted to use us in their schools.
Yeah, but we had also different strategy with expansion with the school version. We tried to hire like country managers in each country, and it failed, and it was so expensive because we hired country managers without any fixed salary, just with commission, so it wasn't working. And these days we see where the mistake was. And we see how important it is to relocate someone from the headquarters to the new country, and then hire someone who will help him or her with the market, someone from the country.
got it, got it. So, so the way that you guys roll out to different countries is you have pods within each country to break into different markets.
So like currently the global marketing is our primary key, but once we see huge potential, for example, we saw it in the USA where we have over 100 clients, then we decided to relocate one of our member of the C-level team, and she hired a sales rep there. So we are building like official branch and opening the market like more officially than just doing online from the Czech Republic.
Yeah, but like the best way is to generate content which people around the world can find on Google, which is like answering their questions and showing how FaceUp can solve their problems.
Got it. Very cool. How large is the team now?
It's 40 people.
40 people. And how has that changed in terms of where you guys view the business, pretty much leveling up in the past 4 years and growing pretty quickly in 4 years' time to a team of 40? I think just you got to definitely take some credit around that, because statistically speaking, most companies don't reach it past the 3-year mark, right? And you guys are on year 4, and it looks like you guys are continuously to grow, looking to grow. What's been some of those learnings in those past 4 years? Maybe something that's, things that you failed at but learned from, things that were, difficult, or maybe something that you expected that ended up like being a little bit easier than you thought it was going to be.
Yeah, so regarding the team, we see that we have to hire the top people, and we have to give them the responsibility and independence. So we can't see all the details, like it's not possible anymore. And yeah, I think that's the biggest difference in terms of team. So to have like the best management, so they can manage all their teams.
Maybe
Yeah.
understanding that like cheap people are at the end more expensive than expensive people.
Yeah.
Which like every experienced entrepreneur says that, but we of course didn't believe in it, and when we was doing first version of FaceUp, we were building it on engineers. But now we see that invest in people and like invest in them in salary or ESOP or like employee stock option plan and other stuff is really important, because it's still just about people and their skills.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of, the importance of scaling is the ability to delegate, right? And so if you have to, if you can't, if you don't have the right people in place to delegate to, where you can't trust that they're able to have the skill set to manage, it just does end up being a bigger problem. I forget I think it was Brian Chesky of Airbnb who was talking about that in a recent interview where, from the pandemic to during the pandemic, they were, in this really difficult place because they weren't sure about the future of Airbnb. They weren't sure how long it was going to last for. And at that point, he had been a pretty hands-off CEO. And then through the pandemic, realized that he needed to be involved in all the different he needed to restructure his operations to be a little bit more like a startup and then have a little bit more visibility around things. Because by the time that some of these problems would escalate to him, they were 10 times bigger than they needed to be. And so I think
Mhm.
it's a lot about him understanding and seeing what those things might be, but also like finding the right people in the right places, as opposed to just, strategy and managing capital. Um, because it is a very much people oriented process when you get into senior leadership.
Mhm.
Would love to kind of like just as we're rounding up on time, get a better understanding of like where do you guys see, the immediate future of FaceUp? How is the how has it changed? I guess like since you guys took it to market and to today, like is it do you still feel like this is a tool that many see as like a painkiller versus like a vitamin, like it's a must have. How is that narrative positioned as it revolves around your go to market and your product market fit?
Yeah, I think that one of the most important changes from product view is going from a feature to platform. Because when we started, we were pretty like basic reporting app, like anonymous form where kids could fill out and the information was sent to somebody to their email. But it was just a feature; it wasn't product. And now we are also understanding that building true speak up culture in a companies is not just about implementing some basic whistleblowing software. It's more about using the solution for more use cases to really show to employees that this company is the one who wanna hear from them. This is something what we are currently working on to not just be the whistleblowing software which your employees use maybe once per year or something like that, but to be the system which is like all-in-one tool which is helping you with all aspects of getting feedback from your employees and teaching them that you as a CEO wanna hear from them and hear their ideas, question and other stuff because that's the way how company can really grow faster. Because you as a CEO knows maybe 4% of all information in a company, but your employees on the ground are the ones who know everything. So we need to motivate them to really talk about all the stuff and don't be shy to send you these informations.
And it's also our vision to be the number one online tool for anyone who wants to speak up.
Interesting. And does I don't know what the competitive landscape of that looks like, but does I would imagine that something like this, if you can figure out how to um, implement it as part of like a company's culture, that ultimately can help with employee satisfaction and employee retention, right? So like I think, companies that don't have that culture, obviously you feel the ramifications, you feel the negative implications of that. But what are some of the benefits that you guys have noticed from somebody that does like a company that does prioritize a speak up culture, and how does that affect either the top line or bottom line? And it may not be a financial number, but might be related to productivity and retention of talent.
It's a lot about retention because
Yeah.
most of like basically every employee who is leaving company has some reason for it, and most of them tell it to HR manager at exit interview. So FaceUp is a tool which they can use to talk about this hard stuff before, and HR manager has enough time to like prevent that problem. So this is like the biggest benefit for companies, not to lose employees which has some problem which can be solved pretty easy, but they are just shy or scared to talk about it. And also like the FaceUp is a tool which is helping to find out lots of frauds in a company. Like the typical company is losing 5% of their revenue on internal frauds, and implementing FaceUp is not just about the way how to find it out, but it's also the prevention. Because if you show to your employees that doing business ethically is one of your core values, and it's not just in some ethical codex, but you are really implementing the tools for it, they understand how important it is, and they act much more ethically.
Got it. Okay. Very cool. Well, I want to say thank you so much for taking the time to share your story and share the, unique journey that you two have had since, I don't know, 12, 13 years old and going on to where you guys are now. It's definitely not a very common story, let alone coming from Eastern Europe and being able to spin it out of the Czech Republic. So congratulations on that. Definitely have beat out a lot of, other companies, a lot of like other great entrepreneurs. And it's a great mission. So I really wish you guys nothing but, success.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
Of course.